Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Today we're doing something a little bit different. For the first time, I'm going to have a guest on my show, so stay tuned. Hope you enjoy it. Hey everybody, it's Joel, and I'm joined today by my son, Tor.
Hey, how's it going?
It's weird when they don't talk back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you had a joke you wanted to start us off with.
I had a joke. Okay. So, what did the mathematician say when he lost his parrot?
What did he say?
Polygon.
Pretty funny. Pretty funny.
Yeah.
You recently read a book.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it a little bit like over lunch and throughout the day. And so we're going to attempt to talk about it a little bit and hopefully not make our discussion too boring. Mm-hmm. And anyways, you want to hold the book up and tell us what it is?
Yeah, so I read this book. It's called Signature in the Cell by Meyer. I really liked it because it's about, it says it right here on the cover, DNA and the evidence for intelligent design. Okay,
so intelligent design... that's like creationism, right?
No, it's actually not. And that's what a lot of people think. And that's actually why it gets a lot of pushback in social media and scientific circles. Because people are like, intelligent design, oh, that's just creationism. That's you trying to get religion into public schools.
Is that what they sound like?
That's exactly what they sound like.
Their voice always sounds like
that. Always. It's very strange.
So define creationism as you understand it.
Yeah, so creationism, as I understand it, and as he defines it in the book, is basically a literal account of the 6-day creation story in the book of Genesis in the Bible. Intelligent design is totally different. Intelligent design doesn't necessarily contest an old Earth. It doesn't necessarily contest the Big Bang, but it does contest.
It doesn't contest a 6-day creation.
It also doesn't contest that.
That's not even really part of the conversation.
No, it's not really part of it. But a lot of people mistake it for that. People are like, "Oh, well, you Genesis literalist, you just believe in." Yeah.
So people who maybe aren't familiar with the terminology, they just think, oh, intelligent design, that's a Christian thing, therefore it's a Bible fundamentalist thing, therefore
it's not science.
Therefore you're calling, theology or religion science. Intelligent design, how is that different from creationism?
Yeah, so
specifically with like the way Meyer, because we're not scientists.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're definitely not scientists.
We're definitely not scientists. Though I think you're probably smarter than me in the math department at least.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, you definitely are.
Okay.
You got a few years of school out of you at this point.
Maybe.
In math.
So
I'm a math failure.
No, you're not. You just had bad teachers.
Oh, don't say that on the internet. They might still be alive.
Oh, okay. Well,
I've cut my hair since then, so they probably wouldn't recognize me.
Intelligent design is basically just the belief that an intelligent designer, some sort of creative force or person, had a role in making all life.
So in this book, does he specifically tell you who the designer is?
No.
Is there even an identity attached to it?
No. So he says in the beginning that when you start talking about this kind of thing and having a intelligent designer, a lot of people will instantly go, oh, you're talking about God, and that's the God of the Bible, and I don't like him, and therefore I'm going to reject your theory. But he doesn't necessarily say that the intelligent designer is God.
It's an alternative theory to what's widely taught as evolution.
Yes.
Okay. Which in like one sentence, evolution is?
Basically the idea that all life came from a single-celled organism that itself arose out of a primordial soup of molecules just floating around. And they all kind of bumped into each other and presto, you got a cell. And then that replicated and turned into all the living things we see today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're not exaggerating with the primordial soup. I mean,
no, I'm not. Like that's literally what scientists will reference.
And it's literally what's diagrammed in high school and college textbooks as a theory. But there it is on the book. It's told as if it's what happened.
There's actually a really interesting, not painting, but like an illustrated picture, which it almost looks like the Garden of Eden, but it's evolution style, and it's very strange because it's got the primordial soup and the volcano, and Very interesting.
They even have their own tree of life.
Yes, they have their own tree of life.
What a slap in the face, right?
It really is, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, God. We have our own tree of life, though.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Meyer's methodology. He calls it what?
The inference to the best explanation.
An inference as opposed to what?
Like a deduction. So a deduction would be like, if it rains, the streets will get wet. It rained, therefore the streets have gotten wet. Whereas an inference is something that you're pretty sure about, but you don't know. It's like saying the streets will get wet if it rains, the streets are wet, therefore it rained. Now that may be the best explanation, but it's not necessarily true. Maybe they're wet because there was a flood or because a fire hydrant broke off. Mm-hmm. So that's
because my kids left the hose on all night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the most likely, to be honest.
That's never happened.
So when you're reasoning about past events, you're going to want the best explanation, right?
And you have to infer it because none of that information is currently available to direct observation.
You can't go back in time and view the event as it happened.
Right.
You just have to reason about what probably happened. And that's what he's saying in Signature, is that evolution once was a good explanation. But as new evidence has come into light about how the cell works, he's now saying and putting forth the idea that evolution is no longer the best explanation, and intelligent design is.
So what is the evidence that Meyer points to that gives an explanation for the origin of life? What specifically in the book is it that he's drawing his inference from?
Yeah, so he's inferring that intelligent design played a role in the origin of life because there is so much information in DNA. So DNA is the main molecule in cells that holds the instructions for building proteins, which in turn do lots of things in the cell. And that's basically what makes the cell, do its thing, be alive. If I sit down to write a computer program, I have to input information into the computer for it to do something. I can't just type out a bunch of random strings of letters and hope it does something. It's not going to do anything, or maybe it'll give me an error and shut down. When you see tons of information in something, you most likely would infer that an intelligent designer has played some role.
I don't eat alphabet soup, but if I had a big thing of alphabet soup and I poured a bowl for you kids and it had, we hold these truths to be self-evident, written legibly on lines across the middle of your soup, what would you assume? You
would definitely not assume that happened by random chance, right? You would definitely not assume that because it contains information.
Right. You would probably think that I'd gone in there and picked out letters and laid them neatly in the soup.
Yeah, I'd be like,
it would have
Daddy,
to be that.
Did you mess with my soup?
Yeah, but we don't eat alphabet soup.
No, we don't eat alphabet soup.
But yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like you would find specific information in a thing, and anytime we find specific or he calls specified information.
Yes.
We'll talk about that in a sec. It implies that there was a mind, or there was a thought, or there was a purpose. You told me earlier that something interesting about the formation of DNA is that the GTAC, the nucleotides, are in pairs that convey information. But what did Meyer say about the way they come to be in the arrangement that they're in?
Yeah, so there's actually no interaction between base pairs with other base pairs. Now, the things that are opposite the backbone of the ladder, they naturally want to go together. G goes with C, A goes with T, that kind of thing. But the base pairs don't interact with other base pairs, which means that there's no causative force that makes those pairs arrange themselves in certain ways, which means that you can't use a force to explain how they got in that way. Like you can't say, oh, well, there's this force that, made them want to come together, so it's not a problem. That information just came together because it was influenced or caused to do so.
So is there not something in the DNA structure, maybe leading up to those nucleotides, where they, maybe we can show the picture online, where they're almost touching,
Yeah.
One on either side of the, we call them the helix. Is that right?
The helix.
But there's a sugar phosphate or something that bridges those to the structure of the helix.
Yes.
So there's nothing in the sugar phosphate or the backbone there that dictates the digit of information.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
There is nothing that dictates where the base pairs will go. And that means that unless you have a designer that puts the information in there, it will be random. And random information does nothing.
Because otherwise the structure is functionally the same, except for the nucleotides themselves, which then in an organism convey purposeful structure and organization that leads to life.
Yes.
Wow. That's way above my pay grade.
Yeah, it's above mine too.
Okay, Meyer talks about two kinds of information being important. What are they?
Okay, so there's Shannon information, and then there's specified information. Shannon information is directly proportional to the amount of uncertainty a sequence eliminates.
Okay, put that in like really practical terms. What's the example he gives?
Yes. So an example that Meyer would like to give is flipping a coin versus not flipping a die, rolling a die. So when you flip a coin, it's either going to be heads or tails. There's not a lot of uncertainty. You could probably guess it, 50% of the time, and you'd get it right. Rolling a die conveys a little bit more information because it gets rid of more uncertainty. Because there's 6 different possibilities for it, and you've got a 1 in 6 chance of getting it right just by guessing. And so that's more Shannon information. And then specified information is when your information is Shannon information, but it's also specified, which means that it conveys useful information. It's useful. It conveys, it has a function.
So it's Shannon information in the sense that it eliminates other possibilities.
Yes.
Okay. But it's recognized as holding meaningful information?
Yes.
Okay, so this is specifically with reference to the information found in DNA.
Yes. Yes, he says that the information in DNA is specified information because it eliminates uncertainty as to, how the base pairs will be laid out, but it also has a function, and that function is to encode for proteins and other things.
Do you have a joke for that? I think it's time for another joke.
Why did the DNA... I don't know.
Come on, determinism.
No.
Help.
Help me. I don't have any.
All right.
Oh, well. I guess I wasn't determined to have a joke then.
The sign behind us, the pixel sign here, has Shannon information in it.
Yep.
In the sense that it's a certain number of white square blocks on 2 sheets of Lego base, and they're arranged in one of many finite possible ways.
Yeah.
They could be arranged. Okay. They could be arranged in a number of meaningless ways, though.
Yes.
But specified information, you're saying, on the other hand, conveys it in what way?
It conveys meaningful information, not just Shannon information where it could be meaningful or more likely it's not, but it's meaningful in the sense that it conveys a function. And in the case of the pixel sign, it conveys the word pixels.
Mm-hmm. Which means something to us here.
Yeah, it means something to us.
All right, you said there's a chicken and the egg problem with this whole DNA thing. What is that?
Yeah, so there's a problem, and the problem is that DNA contains all the information that encodes for proteins. But proteins are the molecules that do things around the cell. Like, how do they both form at the same time? Because you need the information, but you also need the proteins to do the things. Because without both of them, you can't have a living cell. And having both of them form at the exact same time is immensely improbable. It couldn't happen within the lifetime of the universe. To get around this problem, scientists have decided to come up with this theory, and it's called the RNA World theory. Because along with those 2 types of molecules, proteins and DNA, there's a third type, which is called RNA. And it's kind of like DNA in that it can store information, and it's kind of like proteins in that it can do tasks around the cell. And so, scientists have postulated the existence of a certain type of RNA molecule that they call a replicase, because that sounds really scientific. And a replicase can replicate itself. And once you have something that can replicate, then maybe accidentally it makes a mistake and introduces something else, and then that mutation is beneficial, and so that other type of replicase is better. And, so on and so forth. Through mutations and selection, you end up with DNA, and you end up with proteins, and you end up with a cell. And that gets around the chicken and egg problem.
But has this been observed?
No. In fact, scientists still can't find a replicase either in nature or just by reasoning out what it would have to look like. And these are smart people. Protein scientists are incredibly talented at what they do, and they have not been able to even make one that performs nearly the amount of function that a replicase would have to be. And the way they try and get around this is they say, maybe there was a kind of replicase that didn't quite function right, but, as it sort of malfunctioned, it kind of got better over time through mutations and, selection. And then eventually there was a fully functioning one. But the problem with that is that before you have a fully functioning replicating system, you can't rely on natural selection because there is nothing to select if it can't fully replicate.
It seems like it kicks the can down the road a little further with the origins problem.
That's exactly what it is.
It's like another theory is that, panspermia, that our origins of life actually came from another planet. It was aliens.
It was aliens. But then, of course, you got the exact same problem.
Same problem.
Where did the aliens come from? Well, other aliens. That's not helpful. It just keeps going. So
I'm not saying it was aliens, but
it was aliens.
In an appendix of the book, you said that Meyer discusses the multiverse idea.
Yeah. So when confronted with the mathematical challenges to Darwinian evolution, which basically means it's way too improbable that evolution could produce all of life, scientists turn to the multiverse, because if there are infinitely many other universes, then anything that's even super improbable, like 1 in 10,000 trillion billion gazillion, would be super probable and, in fact, inevitable to happen if you have infinite universes. But the problem with this is that while you can accept it, it comes at an epistemological cost. And the cost is that anything becomes inevitable. Not just evolution becomes inevitable, but anything. Let's say your alphabet soup example, that becomes inevitable because there are infinitely many other universes. Then it gets into some really very strange stuff, which one of which is the Boltzmann brain. And that means that a fully functioning human brain could pop out of nothing just due to the quantum fluctuations of the spare particles floating around in space, and then just as quickly pop right out of existence. And it's inevitable if you have multiverse. And so it basically implies that all of our thoughts, all of our feelings and emotions are just dictated by random fluctuations of the quantum field. We don't really exist. Maybe our universe popped out of existence a couple minutes ago. We don't know. We can't know anything if we accept this theory.
Or at least that's what we're led to believe in our universe.
Yes.
If the multiverse theory is true, then in another multiverse at this present time, you'd have Richard Dawkins writing books in favor of intelligent design, and Stephen Meyer would be a popular atheist.
Yes.
I mean, it has to be, right?
It has to be.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you recommend the book?
Absolutely. You should definitely go get this book if you're even remotely interested in the origin of life, or just whether the scientific community is always right about things. It's an absolutely fantastic read. I totally recommend it to pretty much everybody.
All right. So if anybody made it all the way to the end of this video, they should win a prize. So do you have any more math jokes you want to share?
Okay, yeah, I actually have one in mind. So, why did the chicken cross the Mobius loop?
This was in our last video.
Oh, wait. Oh, whoops.
I know you got more.
Well, I have one, but I don't want to say it. Let's think of a different one.
Oh, what?
No, I don't want to.
This is a G-rated YouTube channel.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Oh, is it the one I'm thinking of?
Probably.
The one at the end of the Matt Parker video?
Yes.
Yeah, we can't tell that one.
Yeah.
People will be like, what kind of things is that guy teaching his kid?
I think I've got one. So, did you hear the one about the mathematician who didn't understand imaginary numbers? He found them too complex.
That's a joke?
Yeah, that's a joke.
See, if I was more mathematical, maybe it would be funny.
Yeah. Well,
do you know any others?
I don't.
That
probably.
Are funny?
Well, why is 6 afraid of 7?
Oh.
Because 7 ate 9.
That's way more up my alley.
Why did 7 eat 9? I mean, just not no reason. Because you should eat 3 squared meals a day.
Oh.
3 squared is 9, yeah.
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 It took me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to say?
Nah, I mean, it was an honor being on the Pixels of Light channel, and totally subscribe and hit the like button, and if you have anything you'd like to see, then leave an answer down in the comments below.
Sound like you've watched YouTube videos before. Maybe you've seen a few.
A few.
All right, well, thanks for being on.
Thank you.
I guess that's it.
Yeah.